Good morning. Respected President, Reverend Father Monsieur Jose Konikara, Executive Manager Reverend Father Thomas Kakashiri, Reverend Father Dr. Jose Kandampura, Principal Dr. Jose P, Registrar Dr. V.M. Xavier, other dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, respected faculty members, proud parents of the graduates of 2021 batch, and the heroes of today, the stars of today, the batch, the BTech batch 2017-21 and the postgraduate batch of 2019-21 who are receiving their formal graduation certificates today. At the outset, let me thank Jyothi Engineering College for inviting me to be part of this jubilation day, which is going to mark a major beginning of many of your lives. All of you who are receiving your formal degree certifications deserve special congratulations, not only for successfully completing the course, but also to complete this at extremely testing circumstances. Both postgraduate and the undergraduate students had disruptions in their studies because of a black swan event, which none of us have ever know how to manage, formed by a very, very small pathogen, but created such a big havoc all over the world. Across the world, we know that how COVID has created problems, and it has created challenges in your education, in your study life. But all of you have taken that challenge and bring out great achievements, and Professor Jose was actually mentioning about some of the key achievements of people who have won the national state awards and ranks, etc. Congratulations to all of you. But at this point of time, you should also thank and remember the support which you received both from your college and from the parents and your relatives and the friends who actually stood with you in these tiring times. I think this is a point when we need to actually mark a gratitude to all of them. At the one time, this particular COVID created so much of stress in us, and it has actually created a lot of challenges in us, but it's also given a lot of new changes, new directions for us. Many of the things which has happened in the last 3 years is something which was unthinkable in the past. None of us sitting here ever thought that we can actually do a study through a distance mode, through a technology. None of us ever thought that there can be a vaccine which can come out in such a small period of time. Nobody ever thought that a country like India, with all its difficulties and challenges, can actually distribute 2 million doses of vaccine to people free of cost across the country. All these has achieved because many of our myths about the way we work, the way we live, actually being busted during the last few years. Why I'm saying this is because while the COVID created problems for you, the point in which you are entering into your career, some of you have already started your career, I understand that, but some of you may be doing your maybe post-graduation or your PhD, or some of you may be looking for better jobs and better avenues. But very soon, you will be starting your corporate career, your industrial career, or your business career per se. It is at this point of time, we are actually getting into the world at a time which is extremely opportune. We have huge changes which has happened in the world. The world is coming out of a recession. The world is actually growing or about to grow in leaps and bounds, especially like a country. Some of you must have seen that in the results which has come for our country, we have grown at around 13%, which has never happened in the history of the country per se. And few days back, on 15th of August, our Honorable Prime Minister has actually given us a great challenge to all of us. He gave a challenge saying that, can India become the top of the world when India celebrates its 100th anniversary of its independence? By 2047, when India completes 100th year of its independence, can India challenge and solve many of the issues which is plaguing us today? Be it on the poverty, be it on the clean water, be it on the better infrastructure, be it on the education, all of these are the challenges which need to be solved if India has to become one of the top countries in the world. Now that is an interesting aspect for people like you, because next 25 years, when India has to go through this rapid transformation, we know that after we become independent, today when you look back, we have achieved quite a bit. We become world's largest producer of milk. We become the world's lowest cost producer of space technologies. We become the producer of the lowest cost car. We are actually independent in many of the technological areas, but there are still problems we need to address. So if India has to become on the top, I think the next 25 years are going to be extremely crucial. Which means each of you sitting here are going to be the people who are going to decide whether India is going to make or break. So it is not just a graduation which you are getting. It is not just a certificate which you are getting. Like Father Jose mentioned, you are actually getting from an institution which actually instills in you a great level of value systems, a great level of motivation, and a great level of commitment. And with those technologies which you have learned here, and the environment which you led here, the models which your professors and teachers have shown you, if you can actually work, we can actually contribute to our bid into the nation's development per se. And I'm sure that each of you will try to do that. Perhaps when the 25th anniversary of your graduation happens, and generally all the batches do that when their silver jubilee of their graduation happens, I'm sure that each of you will have a story to tell on how you have actually changed the world, how you have actually changed the nature of the country per se. But having said that, it's also equally important to say that how are we going to achieve that? Wishing is one, but doing is something very different. And that is basically why I said that if you look last 2 years, we have actually challenged many of our beliefs and myths, many of our age-old beliefs that this cannot be done or this can be done, and we have seen that we can actually do something very different. It's important for us to understand how the world is changing. In fact, the world is actually going through a rapid transformation. And this transformation is not just an incremental transformation. It's a very, very radical transformation. And that radical transformation is basically going to be led by engineers, especially people who have got capabilities in digital and related skills. And I'm sure that whichever branch of engineering you have done, you have that. What are those changes which is happening around us? For one, the world has actually moved back from what it was in the past. That is, from a world of globalization, we are again going back to areas where we are actually going to go into localization and excelling at the smallest format as such. Why am I saying this? Let's look at how the world evolved across the years, across centuries. If you take last 2 or 3 centuries, we actually used to produce things in smaller places, in villages. Grama Swaraj is the word which Gandhiji used. This was what was happening in 17th century, 18th century, etc. Then when people found that there are excess in a particular village, they actually started moving it from one place to another place. So that is basically where the shipment of items happened, and trade used to happen. And this, some of you must have read in books and history, etc. But what is known to us is a very different world. A world where people started moving from one place to another place. Thanks to the automation which engineers have brought in, thanks to a lot of machines which people have brought in, where human physical labor has actually been reduced, the drudgery to a large extent, where efficiencies have become the order of the day, and very easy for you to move from one place to another place, be it on automobiles, be it on jet engines, and be it on many of the inventions which people have done across the years. Last century actually shows us the development of large industrial sectors. When you think about being a mechanical engineer, we think about building large machines. When you think about an electrical engineer, you think about building large power plants. You think about large distribution lines. When you think about being an electronics engineer, you think about high-end communication systems. All these has happened because of that centralization philosophy of what we call as the second industrial revolution. During the last part of the last century, we have seen a big change. We have seen a change which is starting small, where from an industrial world, the world is actually moving more into a knowledge world, where the computers, the digital, actually becoming an important thing. The products are becoming very easy for us. I'm sure that if I ask how many of you own a power plant or a large mechanical device, may not be many of you have it. But I'm sure every one of you must be having a mobile phone, because the technology becomes so affordable for us, so it has come to our hands per se. And this technology came very fast to us. And we have seen how the internet, the World Wide Web, etc. changed our lives. So much so that a simple app like a WhatsApp has how changed our businesses, the studies, and many of the things as such. Now we are moving to the next world. In this next world, we are actually repeating what we have done in the industrial world. While industrial world has replaced human physical labor, the new world is actually going to replace human cognitive labor. We are actually going to get efficiencies at a very, very small formats. More importantly, technology can actually be used to solve extremely large problems of the society. That is an exciting thing. Being at a smaller levels, you can actually solve very, very big problems of the society. Be it the clean water, be it the waste management, be it the air pollution, be it the traffic management. All these things, or the housing, clothing, all of them actually are getting solved using large-scale adoption of the technology per se at a very small scale, at a very, very, very decentralized manner. So this movement from large to small, movement from centralization to decentralization. Some of you sitting here must be familiar with a new terminology called Web 3. I'm sure all of you are familiar with Web 2.0 because you are living in that. We are actually using social media to a large extent. But now we are moving to the next world where we are thinking about Web 3, which is primarily we are speaking about decentralized autonomous organizations. We are speaking about decentralized finance. We are speaking about crypto, the world of crypto and different level of currencies and monetary systems per se. That world is actually coming into our forefront per se. And that world is not very far, because every technology life cycle, the literature and theory says that it shrinks across a period. That's true. We can watch that. When textile and electricity came to the world, it took so many years, maybe 200 years to spread it across the world. Even automobiles took almost 100 years to spread across the world. Even computers took almost 30 or 40 years to spread across the world. But this period is actually reducing. So the new world of AI, the new world of blockchains, the new world of data analytics, these solutions are coming to us in an extremely short period of time. And for people like you, you are going to leave that. You have a very interesting situation in your friend. You are actually going to work in a country which actually aspires to become a world leader, which has got a large number of problems in front of it. And each of the problems begs for technology solutions, which means there is a huge market in for you. If you have innovative, you can actually come out with the solutions. Today we say that at least around 20% of India's CEOs are less than 30 years old, because they are coming out with interesting solutions to solve the world. Now, some of the names which you are familiar with, they are all managed by very, very young people. Because you see the age, which conventionally when you think about leading a company or leading a major thing, you have to be very, very old. That's not the case today. So many of you sitting here can actually become that leadership role in a very short period of time. So this is the environment in front of you. But there is a challenge to this. The challenge is that when technology moves very fast, unless we actually catch on to that and we adopt to that, we will become obsolete very fast. Many of the things which you have learned in your college, especially the specific skills or the specific technologies which you have learned in your college, maybe 4 years back, it's already irrelevant. You must have learned maybe a C or a C++, which may not be used in the industry anymore. They may actually go into different formats. They may be going for a low-code format, perhaps. So there is a fast change in the way the world and the work changes. So if you really wanted to adopt to that, you need to actually learn how to learn. And that learn to how to learn is something which I believe Jyothi has taught you in the last 4 years. How do you actually make yourself a person who can have a lifelong learning? If something new comes, you are able to adopt by itself. From a world where somebody teaches you, somebody has taught you, there is a syllabus, there is a curriculum, there is an examination, to a world where none of these are there, but there are enough and more number of challenges where you need to develop solutions and do it. When I was heading the startup mission, I had a lot of interaction with Jyothi, and I've seen some very exciting products coming out from people like you, from in the IEDC space, etc. These are areas which actually help you to adopt your knowledge into the space as such. So when you get into the industrial world, when you get into the work, be an innovator. Be always look for challenging the existing norms, the beliefs which limits your capabilities, and also always listen to your inner self. The inner self will many times guide us into the right direction. And to make inner self, listen to the inner self, you need to actually ensure that you do better deeds, which the college has taught as a part of the value system. So let me say that we are actually entering into an exciting world, a world where you have globally, nationally, regionally, there are opportunities coming in plenty. A world where the engineers are going to rule, whatever be the branch of engineering you are going to do, because the people who develop technologies, people who are going to adopt technologies are going to be the people who are going to be the stars. They were the stars for the last 100 years, they continue to be the stars for the next years. But the big but is that you need to keep updated yourself. Like there is a story which says that if you go to a jungle, if you are a tiger or if you are a deer, every day you need to run, because a tiger has to run, because if it doesn't run, it cannot catch a fast running deer. And a deer has to run, because if it doesn't run, a tiger will catch it. So both, whether you are a big animal or whether it is a small animal, you need to run. The same is the case with people like us today. We need to start running from the day. It is not a period of so once you become a graduate, okay, we have already done and we have achieved, so take a rest. That should not be the attitude. The attitude is, how do I create more learning? How do I make more value to me, my society, my parents, and also to the country as a whole? And I'm sure each of you will contribute to that. And once again, I will expect that 25 years down the line, when you celebrate your silver jubilee, perhaps in this hall or in a larger campus, by that time I'm sure that Jyothi is going to be, the way that Jyothi is achieving, I'm sure that Jyothi is going to be an institution of international eminence by that time. When you come back, each of you should carry a story with you, a story where you made a difference to the world. Wish you all the very best for that. Thank you for inviting me. Best of wishes.